Today we're going to talk about doing your junior paper research, and because this is the junior paper as a whole, a research-based persuasive essay, you must do your research in order to write the essay. If you don't do your research, you're not going to be able to write your essay. So that's why I make this part of the junior paper, the research part, a big grade. The assignment for your research is worth 65 points. That's a test grade for this class. So I need you to pay attention, and that's why I'm recording this lesson, so that if you want to watch back through it to review, or just like you forgot what to do, you can always watch it again. So we're going to the junior paper folder, and now we're in the folder called research. This is your assignment right here. If you click on it, there's two things. This we'll talk about in a second. This is what you need to click on and make a copy of. It'll force the copy because this is your assignment that you're going to be turning into me. So once you make a copy, it's going to look like this, although I don't think yours are going to show up the comments on the side. Those are just for me so I can remember what I want to tell you. So you've already done preliminary research. You've already found 3 websites on the topic that you want to write your junior paper on. So go back to that preliminary research assignment. Go back to those sources. Those could be 3 sources that you use for this assignment, providing they're good sources and you still want to use them. What you'll also find on your preliminary research assignment at the very end, you wrote a thesis statement. So you can go ahead and copy and paste your thesis statement right here, provided I had approved it for you. If you need to make some edits to it, you're going to want to do that and then put your new and improved final thesis statement here. When we start our research, we want to make sure that we have a good mix of information. You don't want to find repetitive information and 30 quotes that say the exact same thing. In order to guide our research, I have you think, before we even start the research, about subtopics for your thesis statement. So let's say, for example, my thesis statement is how global warming is really bad and it needs to be fixed, something like that. Of course, it would sound better than that, but this is just an example. So I need to think about that big umbrella topic of global warming and think of some subtopics that I could research that fall underneath my big topic. So I might think of some causes of global warming. What are the different causes? Maybe there's CO2 emissions. Maybe there's pollution, okay? We could also say, and causes and effects works great for a lot of different topics. Effects of global warming. We have rising sea levels. We have, what else? The polar ice caps are melting. We have animal extinction. What are some other subtopics I think of with global warming? We could think of some solutions, right? What can I do? Maybe I can increase recycling efforts. Maybe I can get an electric car, right? Things that I can do to help fix it. And then maybe I want to look into some organizations that are working to make efforts in the global warming problem, like the EPA, and I'm sure there's other ones we could look at too. So also attached to the assignment, there was that PowerPoint. And this is just breaking down further for you different examples of the subtopic brainstorming. So for any topic, these are some things you might want to think about. You might want to think about the causes and effects, like we just said. Are there different types of your overall topic? Are there organizations that work with your overall topic? Are there ways to fix it, solutions? And if you notice, the first one and the last one are done for you because this is going to end up being, these different subtopics are going to end up being your body paragraphs. And so it makes sense that in our first body paragraph, we want to provide any kind of information necessary for our topic to continue forward in our paper, the history of our topic, some specific background information. Maybe we need to define some terms, but we just need to provide that background knowledge about the topic first before we can start going into the different subtopics. So everyone's going to keep this number 1 subtopic, and same with number 6. We're going to address the counter argument, which in a logical argument tends to come towards the end, where we're going to acknowledge that there are, people out there who disagree and side with the opposite stance of our thesis statement. So we'll hit the counter argument right before our conclusion, and then we'll end our paper. So these 6 rows right here roughly end up being your body paragraphs. So you are most likely going to have 6 body paragraphs. Once we have a guide of our subtopics and what we're going to research, now we can go ahead and start finding our sources and finding our quotes, now that I know what I'm actually looking for. If you need more help thinking of subtopics, refer back to this PowerPoint. There's the global warming one I just used as an example. Here's another example of video games and how they just have lots of negative effects and how we should restrict children playing video games is my argument. And then I have my list of lots of subtopics here. And then I have another third example for you too, arguing that vegetarianism should be the diet of choice for everyone because it saves the lives of innocent animals and it is healthier. And then my list of subtopics here. If you just need some more guidance or examples of what you can put for your subtopics, just refer to that PowerPoint. We're going to look at this video here in a second, but first I want to provide you the context for the video. So next, we're going to go to those sources, those 3 websites that you found on your preliminary research assignment. And if we want to use those, we're going to add them in here. This is going to be your APA 7 information for your sources. You already have 3 that you found, providing you still want to use those same 3, and then you're going to have to find an additional 2. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through this with these examples here. So in order to find the APA citation for your source, we can watch that video. I'll play that here in a second. And what that is going to include is the author, if there is one, the year it was published, the article title on the website, the overall title of the website, and then a hyperlinked URL. And this is the basic guide you're going to follow if there is an author. It goes kind of in this order, looks just like this with these punctuations, with the periods and the commas and the parentheses and the hyperlinked URL address at the end. Here is it completed for you once it's all said and done. And then one thing you'll probably run into is a website without an author. It happens a lot. So if your website source does not have an author listed, no problem. You just use the title of the page as your first thing instead. And that's also going to become the first word of the title, your internal citation, which I'll explain in a second. So it's a little bit different format if your website doesn't have an author, because you also now have to add in this yellow retrieved from thing that is not in this one with the author. So similar, but a little bit different. And here's what a completed one looks like for that too. So I'm going to show you this video, and then I'll show you me doing it myself as an example.
To use the built-in citation tool within Google Docs, go to Tools, Citations. On the right, the citation sidebar will open. First, you can select which format you would like to use. Next, click Add Citation Source. Use the pull-down to select what type of source you'll be citing. For a website, copy the URL, paste it in, and then click Search. Google will find that website, and then you'll click Continue, and it will fill in the information that it found. If there are any blank fields, the student can go back and fill that information in. Once all the information is filled in, click Add Citation Source. If you want to add another source, you click Add Citation Source, you choose the type, you copy the URL, you paste, click Continue, fill in the appropriate information, and add the citation. Within the paper, if you would like to copy a direct quote, You can click the Cite button, and Google will automatically insert the in-text citation. When all citations have been added, you're ready to insert the work cited, just click Insert Work Cited, and it will alphabetize and correctly format the works cited page.
What? OMG, that is amazing. Thank you, Google Docs. What a great tool. So I'm going to show you again just how we did that. So this is the first article that I want to use. So I'm going to go up here and copy the URL just like Miss Lord did. And I'm going to click on Tools, Citations. I'm going to make sure that I'm selecting APA 7 because that's the format that we're using. I'm going to click Add Citation Source. It is a website. Then I'm going to paste my address in there, search. Yay, wow, that looks great. Continue. Looks like I have all the information I need in here. Add citation source. Got it. So this is what I'm going to copy, and paste into my box. Wow. And then what is my internal citation? I could just click this cite tool right here. It is done for me. Oh my God, I love it. Let's do another one because this one is a website without an author. All right, so I'm going to copy and paste my URL address. I'm going to click Add Citation Source because now this is another one. Website, put my URL in there. Continue, add citation source. I'm going to copy this, paste it in there, and then I can also cite. Okay, so here's a slight flaw with the Google tool. I really only need the first word of the title when it comes to my internal citations. So I'm going to delete all that and just have easy as my citation. It should also go in quotation marks because it is a title, not someone's last name, easy. So that's what your citation should look like. So a minor edit, not a big deal, still makes it super easy with this citation tool. So go ahead and do that for 3 more sources, and then you have your sources done. In order to figure out what your internal citation should be, that's this column right here. Sometimes you might have wonky sources that have like 2 authors or there's no date listed. Then what do? You can then refer to this chart here for what your internal citation should be. So I tried to put them in order of the popular types of sources you might see. Most are going to have an author and a date. If not an author, at least they'll have the first word of the title. Sometimes there's not a date. So then you put the author's last name, comma, n.d. which stands for no date. That is in lowercase letters. What if there's no author and no date? Then you use the first word of the title and again, n.d. If there's 2 authors, if there's a bunch of authors, if there's an organization listed as an author, and if there's anything else, just ask me and we'll figure it out. So those are all the most popular types of internal citations you're going to see. Now that we have our sources, and you can always add more sources. Up here, say you find a 6th source that you really like. You can add on a row, just right click and insert row below, and then you'll have a 6th row for you. And you can add as many as you would like to, but you have to have 5 minimum. So now that we have our 5 sources, we're going to go ahead and start pulling some quotes from those sources. Make sure that when you're looking at your sources, you're keeping your subtopics in mind and you're looking specifically for quotes that fall in line with the 6 subtopics you have, listed for yourself that are going to guide your research. All right, so I'm going to go to this first website I found and say I find a quote I like. We want to try to keep our quotes to 1 sentence, maybe 2 sentences, but really no more than that. I'm going to copy the quote, and right here I'm going to paste the quote, right? So that's the quote I just copy and pasted. Then we can go ahead and fill in the rest of this stuff. So what was the internal citation for that source? You could use a citation tool if you want, or you could go back up here and just look. It was from this article. This was my internal citation. I can just copy and paste it down here in this box. What are these other boxes? source number from the blue chart above. So if I go back up here, this is source number one, and my subtopics. If I go all the way back up to the top of my document and look back at my subtopics, which subtopic or topics does this quote match with the best? Identify those there. Then I went to my other article and I found another quote. I highlighted it. I pasted it here. I put my internal citation. This was source number 2, and I think it matches best with subtopic number 2. So you're just going to follow that same process for 30 quotes. Wow, that's a lot. You can always, again, insert a row below if you want to make more quotes, but 30 is the minimum. Now, I want to say that if you have 30 quotes total and you have 5 sources that you're using, that works out to about 6 quotes per source, give or take. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that you should get a mix of subtopics from each source. What we don't want to happen is that you have a whole bunch of quotes all on the same subtopic, all from the same source. That does not require, or that does not fulfill the synthesis criteria for this paper. We want to try to mix up our sources and our subtopics together so that when you're looking at a source, try to find a quote for not just one subtopic, but 2 or 3 or even 4 subtopics from that one source so that your paragraphs will have a good mix of sources in each paragraph. And you're not just going to have a whole paragraph from one source and a whole paragraph from another source and a whole paragraph from another source. That is not what we want to do. We want to try to get a good mix. The best way to do this is just to start playing around with it yourself. And I will walk around and help you. And yeah, I think it's time to start. So again, this is a big grade because without doing the research, you can't write the paper. We're going to spend 3 class periods today, tomorrow, and Friday, and maybe one day next week too, we'll see. But if you don't finish within the allotted class time, it'll be homework throughout the week next week, and then it's due the following Monday. So let's get started on our research.